Hello, Sue.
Hey, how are you doing? I had my internal clock. I'm always on Alaska time, and so I misjudged. You're in California. So I got in, I had a whole bunch of chores and got in and I was like, "Oh." So I hope everybody caught my post that it's live now.
They did. We got a couple people. We got people from Florida and Michigan and Wyoming and Elk Grove and some Canadians and somebody from Australia. So you have a,
Oh,
a
cool.
wide a wide range of fans out there.
Oh, cool. I can't see, just so everybody knows, I cannot see the comments filtering through, nor the names. I can check it later, but Joe here, Joe, why don't you tell us who you are? We'll start by asking who you are. Where do you come from?
Wait a minute, I didn't know this interview was going to be switched. Well, thanks, Sue. I think most people are here to see me talk, so I'll just talk for the next hour. I'm just kidding, but for those who don't know, my name is Joe. I am the showrunner, executive producer of Life Below Zero and the Life Below Zero spinoffs. Been doing that for about 10 years. Started on the show as supervising producer, and yeah, it's been a wild ride. Met Sue about, I tried to find a picture of us, Sue, but I couldn't figure out how to share it. But 13 years ago in Fairbanks, I remember it like it was yesterday, and it's been a wild ride. Sue and I have um, had many incredible opportunities that we've done together, including obviously many trips to Alaska and to Kavik, but Sue and I went to South by Southwest in Austin, and we went on the Ellen show. I wasn't on the show, but I was backstage. So I've had an incredible opportunity to spend a lot of time with Sue over the last 12 years. I don't know, Sue, did you ever expect this wild ride?
Um, yeah, I'm one of those people. The short answer is no. I don't do short answers, but I don't. When I do anything, I don't forecast. Oh, I wonder how this is going to go. Oh, sometimes I bone it. Sometimes I do real good, but I live so much right in the moment in front of me that it feels like one really, really big, incredible family making moment where we stopped time and 12 years went by. And I'm all emotional because we don't know for sure that this is the last episode, but it's the last episode for right now. And I've come to really enjoy bringing everybody in on, hey, what is in that girl's head? Holy cow, that's a different thinker. Um, but it's been really fun. No, I didn't expect all of that. And my age group, I'll just put it that way. I'm one of the last years for the baby boomers, and so all the people that are like Gen X and millennials, who's better than who? I'm like, baby boomers, dude, we got you beat. Um, but I grew up with watching until I got to Alaska. Watching the Miss America pageant, the Universe pageant. The Oscars was like, oh my God, you'd see that on TV and you'd get the newspaper and start doing cutouts to see what happened. So for me to even be invited to get the booby tape out and a nice dress on and dye this mop and look good going anywhere near a red or blue carpet, that's pretty intense and exciting. And the fact that through social media, I was able to share it with so many people that it's just pretty incredible. I tried watching the other people's lives, but there were so many other people on it. I got firsthand knowledge of when somebody says a comment and it just, woo, nobody sees it. Um, but I wanted to ask everybody. So if we talk to them again, I wanted to ask everybody, hey, what is this? Okay, think about that movie. What is this? You know, what is the one episode? What is the one chore, the one thing that you always wanted to do? Because it wasn't always chores. It was, Sue, you got anything planned? Yeah, I'm going to bail on all my chores and I want to go see what kind of animals are in the refuge. Oh my gosh, what about I heard there was a new hot springs opening up, Oh no. But I was going to ask everybody, what is the one thing, since you get this much notice when things end, was there something they were going, oh, killer, I want to do this year? And I didn't get a chance to ask them, but there are some things from when I was a teenager to not a teenager now, that geographical features that are so stinking unique, and I haven't seen them anywhere else. And I wanted to share some of that, and I wanted to prove that I could catch a damn fish.
I think we've seen that over 12 years, right? No, are you not one fish?
Yeah, no, I've caught a few, yeah, when I
Not a
went to the
few.
Arctic Ocean, the
Yeah.
first time, that and my secret little hidey hole, I got a whole bunch, but did not hit it the same on the next time I went. I just couldn't.
Yeah, but I think that's important for people to see that it's not that easy. And I think people respond not, as people respond to this to your struggle and they see
Oh,
how hard it is to be out there.
oh, absolutely, and I think that is again one of the largest things in my mind that made this show makes this show makes the LBZ family create the magic, because it's relatable. You if I want to go, I always wanted to do my ski tow rope up the hill and ski back down. I did go to school for a while in Colorado, and I enjoyed downhill skiing, but it's my version of downhill skiing. I had Rossi Strato 220s, put my long hair in pigtails, and I just went straight down the bumps, breaking my legs all the way down. But that's how I did it. But we show the success. Like, I think it was maybe one of the hailstones that coined the mess of success. And they you got to see that, but you also get to see the disaster of the failure, the learning lessons. And I'm crying in a tent wanting warm milk and a cookie. Um, but it's real and it's relatable.
I think that's one of the things that people really respond to you. You have a wide range of fans from young kids. There's a Jane out there who's 9 years old. Luke and Jonah and the children too. You have everywhere in between, upwards of um, let's just say older fans in their 90s and everywhere in between. People really respond to you. Do you have an understanding of why that is, or what it is about you that people really respond to?
I think I don't think about that very much, but if I had to, since you asked, I think that over my life, you learn about yourself. You learn about your traits. You learn about the things that, oh, wow, I was really a jerk. I was not nice doing this. I don't like that. That brings me to an unhappy place. But I've managed to hone it down, and I usually have a pretty bouncy Tigger type energy. Um, Occasionally, it goes on the wrong side of the coin, and I'm a really real crabby son of a gun. But when I talk to people, usually I'm right here. I explain it to death because my brain doesn't quite work like a lot of other people's. I've discovered that over my 62 years. And it stays very childlike. There's a part of me that's super childlike, and I enjoy it. And I don't ask a lot of permission. Occasionally, I'll say, oh, forgiveness, sorry. I'll ask forgiveness, not permission. I wear goofy hats. There was a producer on the show when we first started, and we had a whole different phone system then. And the call comes in, and that producer was like, can you get her to take off those silly hats, those ridiculous hats? I'm like, nope. But it became part of I've done it forever and it's part of my charm. Um, why do people want to watch? Because the majority of the world, you're so busy being what your boss wants, what you think your kids need, what the wife, oh God, I don't want her yelling at me. I'm going to go out in the shop. Um, you're so busy being what everything else around you tells you need to be, that when you see somebody that's just like, what is wrong with you? You don't fit the pegs. Oh my gosh, you're funny too. For the first 3 or 4 seasons, nobody knew I had a sense of humor. Um, and I think that's refreshing and it's relatable and it's fun.
That's what people are saying, and people are really responding to your positive energy. People are talking about how they enjoy um, the yeah, positivity that you have. I mean, obviously they've seen you do a lot of struggle over the years, and then I know, personally there's been a lot of struggles, but you do seem to maintain a pretty positive outlook on life. Have you always been that way, or is that something you had to work towards?
Mm, I guess personal information. My very young life, there was a lot of extreme violence. There was a lot of struggle. I'll just put it that way. And coming to Alaska, facing the challenges that were here, I had an opportunity to see, oh wow, life doesn't have to be this way. It's going to take a lot of work to get it that way. And I discovered it's just the way that I think. The happier I am, the happier my life is. The more that I get this together, the more these can make things happen, with it. Um, and so, yeah, I was a very young age. I haven't walked a mile in anybody's shoes, nor 5 feet. And I don't know what made life such a struggle. I don't know why that was important when I was young, but it doesn't matter. If you can't affect change, drop it and move on to something that you can work on. And that's got to be you. So you got to work on yourself.
We are getting some, you just mentioned your, growing up a little bit, getting some questions. Lauren is asking about your childhood in terms of connection to the outdoors. You had mentioned about, a connection to animals and ravens and that kind of stuff. Maybe talk a little bit about what it was like to be little Sue going to school.
Um, well, we go when I was super tiny, um, at 2 years old, Chicago. By now, I was walking and talking from what I was told. By 7 months old, at
No,
two,
7 months old. Come on.
7 months old, yep, 7 to 9 months old is when my mom said that I was walking and I could form sentences. At 2 years old, my mom gave me money every morning. It was on the table, and I would go out front, and a taxi would pick me up, and I would go to daycare. And then my mom got called in, and this was
You mean
in
like by
Liberty.
child protective services?
Back when I was a kid, no, your dad came home. If you messed up, he grabbed you with one hand, hung you by upside down by the ankles, and you just heard that leather going sailing through the loops on his pants. And
But
you,
a
you got it.
two-year-old taking a taxi, that's a tough life, Sue.
That's not a tough life. That's probably my vision of it. I learned math on an abacus. I learned Latin before I learned English. Um, I my mom probably had a dude that she knew that drove taxi. But every morning I'd walk out. That was my thing, with the money, and I'd get in back until I saw where I was going, and I got there. He didn't get it. Um,
And do you remember being positive even then, having that good
oh,
outlook?
super! I live in between my own ears. And I joke around. I've said several times, I probably have about 14 personalities, or variations in there, but I've only met 10, so there's room for meeting some more friends before I kick. Um, I always wanted to be outside. I didn't. If I could figure that I could do it, I've used the phrase, "How do what if you can't do that?" And you can't. You set yourself up for failure when you go, "What if I can't?" Because you've already considered that you won't. And my thought is, I don't. It's I don't think about I can't do it, but I don't know. I don't know that I can't. What if you can't? No, I don't know that I can't. So obviously I might. And you just flip the script a little bit. But when I was at two, 3.5, I was in kindergarten and went in early, and I've always skipped grades. I don't know what happened to my thought process now, but I was a smart as hell little whippet and enjoyed it. I just enjoyed it. Um, but we moved a tremendous amount. But when I was in the one daycare, the teacher freaking out, and she was always yelling at me, so I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. But it was playtime, and what I did is I shimmied up the poles of the swing set, got onto the top cross member, and hung from my knees and was swinging. And I had a big thing with flying. I wanted to figure out how to fly, so that was probably she was freaking out because I would fling off of it and try to get that, achieve that. But she had called my mom, and my mom had to come in. The teacher was freaking out, and my mom says she got there, and mom was not somebody you bent out of her box too often. That was precarious to do. But she got there. She was upset that she had to leave work, and she goes, "What is the problem? Where is she?" And the lady's pointing outside, shaking her finger, and I'm hanging from the very top, whatever that is, 12 feet or whatever, swinging, 2.5, 3 years old. And she says, "How do you get her to stop? She won't pay attention. She just keeps doing things." And my mom said, "You called me down here for this." And she says, "Yes. You wanna know how to get this not to bother you anymore?" And she says, "Yes." And she let the shade down. She says, "Don't look." And she walked out, went back to work.
I don't know. See, that sounds nowadays like people would call that some trauma. But that said,
I'm not
getting,
saying I didn't have trauma in my life, but
I I think a little bit. But that said, the connection to nature, I guess you said it was this in Chicago, right? But
that
that
was Chicago.
connection to where did that connection to nature developed? I know you
Um,
talked about the ravens before and that kind of stuff, but
Yeah, the Ravens are more an Alaskan. Well, it's all over the world now. Um, Chipmunks, squirrels. We went to Yellowstone Park and around. I didn't go on all family vacations. We kind of split some things up, and I was really sick as a kid too, here and there. Really sick. There's about a year and a half that I just don't remember. It's not in there at all. Um, but going to Yellowstone, I was very small again. This is mid 60s. Uh, and I ran off. Everybody's putting up a tent and whatnot. And you just, you did not get in the way. You learned that. And I toddled off. In my mind, I still have a feeling. I see the scene. I think in pictures. I think in pictures and movies. And I can recall it. And I can remember thinking, oh my God, doggies, puppies. And I'm playing with them and throwing things and fell asleep with them. Never knowing, never thinking about the fact that people noticed I was missing, couldn't find me. And here come the park rangers and the lights, and they're snatching me up. And it was actually bear cubs and a mama bear. And I was playing with the cubs and thought they were dogs and fell asleep. And why did I not get attacked at that point? I don't know. Probably because I was a child. But I just remember thinking they were dogs. Um, Birds of all kinds, fish. Uh, I've had an affinity with animals. There's some I don't. There's some I'm scared to death of. Um, for good reason. Spiders and snakes. Nope. Nope. Home skillet doesn't do that.
well, I think that's why maybe you moved to Alaska. There aren't really a lot of snakes or spiders in Alaska.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you said there was somebody here from Australia, and hi, whoever you are. Um, And I think, oh my gosh, I want to go down that way. A friend of mine that flies, she and I get a bunch of the women pilots together, and there's a lot of fan base in Australia and New Zealand, and they were trying to pull me over there, and I'm like, I found out more about it. Australia has all kinds of poisonous stuff. New Zealand doesn't. So if I go to Australia, somebody's got to provide me with a some man candy that can go swat things and keep them out of my way because I will act like a 4.5-year-old schoolgirl screaming.
Maybe
But
someone in the comments will invite you
yeah,
to.
with the animals again in Alaska when I came to Alaska and I was looking for a place to stay. I'll just keep that short. Uh, the cabin that's on this property, the Chena cabin, not the big one, the no tech, the roof was all caved in. It was a sod roof. It wasn't whole and intact, all of it anymore. But I found it. It was my first shelter. And the Raven George, first one that I named George, I met him through that journey. And George, I've always had an affinity with the animals. George came to me, and I was very upset at being left. And George came up, and the ravens up here, you've seen them, they're huge. And if you're a smaller kid, and you see this 2.5 from Chicago, you see a 2.5 foot bird, very Poe-esque, bluish black, and they've got those beaks that are just straight out of some gothic novel. Uh, but he was coming close, and I'm like, go ahead, peck my eyes out, do it. And he came closer, and I'm like, do it. And I couldn't cry about my situation. And the bird got closer and flared out his wings and ruffled his feathers so they all stand out and puff. And I was, oh my God. And then he put his wings around me, and it felt like a hug. That's when I was able to break down and cry and deal with some things. And I went, I realized my life was going to change greatly. And in that moment, it didn't matter how I got there, didn't matter where I was going. I now had this bird. The bird wouldn't leave me, would show me food. Birds will eat trashy things that people probably shouldn't. I got sick occasionally, but he stayed with me. I had that same George off and on 17 years. And within a day or two of him not being here anymore, another George shows up. I get up to Kavik, and you guys have seen I had another George. And here, I've got another raven that comes through. And every morning, he talks to me. Um, my dog, Mr. Bill, he attracts animals too, but maybe not in such a positive way. I took him out the other night, 2 nights ago, and something woke him up and me up, and I'm like, all right, I'll take you out, and then we'll see if there's any northern lights, and come back in. And I step out onto the porch. He's going out there, and then I heard this noise, and I look up, and here's this owl. I mean, the wingspan on it was insane, and it swooped off of my shed and flared, and I yanked him, got him out of the way, and I was like, well, you gotta have your leash on all the time, don't you? So yeah, he almost became an owl biscuit.
An
But
owl biscuit. I don't
yeah.
think I don't think so we talked about your connection to humans, and now we're talking a little bit about your connection to animals. It sounds like there's a special connection to ravens. What about
Foxes.
the foxes? Yeah,
Yeah, foxes.
that's
Before even the foxes, there were the squirrels, the Arctic squirrels, and anybody that came to Kavik. There's a lot of fans that have followed me, not just through this show. There were a couple little shows before, but also just Kavik being what it is. There's a lot of people that would come through and hunt or work or whatever. Um, and they would come, and there would be 20, 30 really big Arctic squirrels, and they sit on my lap, they sit on my shoulder. I had one baby that would ride the four-wheeler with me. He'd get in the trailer, and there he goes. We're going down the road. Um, the foxes, Le Petit Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry is a book, and in that book it explains about how to befriend a fox. And I read that when I was young, and that sort of gave me the idea of you cannot force a relationship with a fox. Do the same thing every day, be kind, and the fox will decide. But once they befriend you, you now are responsible because they will friend you for forever. So, generationally. And that's what's happened is um, the first couple of years, 30 to 60 Arctic squirrels all over the place. And as Arctic squirrels, I can feed, and you pick a place, and I would get these grains and things that they like, and I would put them out there, or I'd collect a lot of the weeds they eat and throw them out there. But you pick one place and always put it there, and then the animals, you could leave your doors open. They know the feed bag is over here, not over there, so they don't come inside your house. But foxes, you can't do that to. So, anyways, I had all these Arctic squirrels, and then I have all these foxes that are now. And what people see, like on the show, there's one or two of them that are really comfortable. And the way you guys film that, ones that'll get closer to the camera or are curious about you guys or just need to follow me because they know there might be a bird in the process. Um, there's actually 12 to 15 that are always around me. Not everybody's as brave. But what do foxes eat? Squirrels. So we
Yeah.
had to have a real big discussion about, hey, pets don't eat pets, man. And then that kind of became, yeah, no, I can't do that. So the squirrels went further out in the field, and the foxes, sometimes, like you saw this year, where Baby had babies, and she had them right under the building. And but other ones, we have a kinship, but it's not a dependency. I can go away and have surgeries, or I can go on a vacation, or I can go nowhere at all, and they're there or not there depending on what they want.
We're getting a lot of questions about animals, and then some questions about talk a little bit about your time on TV. You mentioned going up to Kavik, and I want to circle back to talk about you coming to Alaska and then how you found Kavik to begin with. But people are asking, was your first time on TV with Sarah Palin, or was it on Flying Wild, or talk about your first TV experiences?
Um, I was an extra in a series called Jake and the Fat Man in the 80s. Uh,
Wait, what? In Alaska?
no, not in Alaska. I was
Oh.
outside of Alaska. I was actually, I got called out of Alaska. I used to do custom woodworking, and I got called to go down to California and do a job outside of San Francisco. But whenever I'm in San Francisco, I go to the St. Francis for high tea. It's a thing. And I was there, and they thought I had a magnetic personality. And so they asked if I wanted to be an extra and be on that. So I did that. Um, then went about my business. In Alaska, yeah, it would be Greta Van Susteren did an interview with me, and then Sarah Palin um, came out and she looked everything over. Then she did an episode there. Um, stayed in touch with her parents. Um, then what was it? Flying Wild Alaska. There were 3 seasons on that.
But on that show, you weren't on it, right? It was just the characters would fly in.
Yeah. I wasn't a main character or something. It was I used those airplanes from Hageland and the Tweedos. I used those airplanes in my business. You have to fly. There are no roads. So it when I first got to Cavik, it was 750 to 950 for the Caravan. It was only 125 to get a 206 Kermit with oh, what was the name of it? I can't remember the name of the company that Kermit flew for. But it was 125 bucks, and he would pick you up whenever you wanted, and that was in a 206. Now 70 North, and that's 25 years ago, um, and take it even to 20 years ago, and now 70 North quotes 8,500. Depends, 5,000, 6,000 to 8,500, depending on the amount of people in the sled. 206 is a sled, and so that's quite a jump. The Caravan was 950 to come from Fairbanks up, and now it's 12 to 20,000. So that's painful. But if I hired a plane for a set amount of guaranteed hours, 400 hours at so much per hour, um, then it's up to me. I make money by making sure there's enough butts on that plane.
So in terms of going back and forth, we'll talk about how you do that now, but talk about it in like your very first, I don't think we've ever explored this that much, your very first memories of Kavik. Right now you are associated with Kavik. It's Kavik
Yeah,
Sue. But
yeah.
I mean, I know there's some stuff we don't want to talk about in terms of exes and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, but I think it's
Well,
the fans, want to know talk about like the very early
what
memory.
brought me there?
Yeah.
There's a whole nother Sue that people don't know. Even though the show's been on a long time, I had already been at Kavik for a dozen years. Um, when I was young and in Alaska and had a dog team, the old freighting style. Um, when you have a dog team, you watch Jesse, and how do you get your dogs to stop? You have a big
Jesse,
old
who's
ice hook,
who's running
and
the race right now and doing
yes,
really well.
yeah. Well, this is early in the race. Yeah, Jesse started the Iditarod, and he's number 15. And I don't know what place he is right now, but that's
He
his
was
bib
he
number.
was leading, I think last we checked or this morning, but it goes up and down.
Yeah, yeah, it's too early. This is really where you strategy plays a big part. You've got the flats. You can go pretty good in the flats. And what, Bill? What the hell are you doing? Um,
Sorry, we
you
were talking
you
about
do
Jesse,
your you
but
do your race dogs. Race dogs, they tend to start them running pretty early, pretty young, and you've got all this young dog energy. Dog balls are a big thing. They'll get themselves all upset with each other and form dog balls. And they know the commands for go, pick it up a little bit, gee, ha. They do not understand a lot of them. Stop. You try to train your dogs. A lot of the big mushers will train their dogs to their voice only, nobody else's. Um, I don't do the dog racing. To get your dogs to stop, you got to have an ice hook and wrap it either in the ground or around a tree.
so you did dog mushing early in your time in Alaska and
Mm-hmm.
dog mushed through Havoc originally or with
I dog mushed through this area here where the Chena cabin is. Went up around Coldfoot, Wiseman. Had a place out that way and a big trap line out that way. But the old freighting dogs, the race dogs need booties and jackets. The old freighting dogs, 180 to 200, 210, 220 pounds each. They don't. And I had gone through the North Slope. If you have a big team, there's nothing as freeing as getting on the North Slope where you don't have trees and you're not having to break branches and it's your dogs knock into something or a moose comes tumbling out of the trees charging you. um, if you have the right kind of team and dogs, you can live on the dog team, and that's what I did. But I knew about Kavik. um, Anybody that was here through the oil days probably heard of Kavik. It was the largest camp on the North Slope in its heyday. Then, when in 1968 the Discovery wellhead came in Prudhoe Bay, that was oil. Kavik is natural gas. And so everything got capped off. All the gas places got shut down and dismantled. Kavik had 1,500 people working there full time, permanent, and then additionals had its own runway tower and lights. Um, the runway was another half to 3/4 of a mile longer. But
And
when
this
I
was before
first,
you got there, or when
this is
you
before I
knew?
got
Okay.
there, and so when I was doing my dog thing, yeah, I you could see it. You could see the camp is a great area, and later on, I had babysat for Mike Tolbert, who used to own the camp. You can't own the land; you lease the land, and you can own all the improvements. So Mike Tolbert put another configuration of the camp as people's knowledge of drilling and mining and geology became better. They discovered they probably missed a lot in early petroleum geology. So he put together another camp out there, and he contacted me through putting a thing up on the Coldfoot Post. um, we call it muckluck messaging. They told Mike Tolbert told Burley, and Burley put a notice. Burley is a truck driver driving up and down the Hall Road, and he put a post notice on the post. Hey, Mike wants to talk to you. Uh, my partner and I went down there, and he said, I need somebody to watch the camp. Can you do that in the summers? Dude, I don't do nothing just for the summers. Had 32, 40 giant Alaskan Malamutes and puppies on the way. No, I don't do anything just for the summer. You talk about moving. I can bring the dogs out, but I'm not leaving again in 3 months. Forget it. I got to be there year round. So that's how I got there. And once I got there, my first reaction was to cry. It had been,
So at that point, sorry. So at that point, you and let's just say an ex, basically were tasked with being the caretakers, kind of
yeah.
taking over. And do you remember thinking like, oh God, like I don't want to do this type of deal?
I was excited at first, and when I got there, I got to see what terrible shape it was in. It had not been cared for properly. It is an absolute art form, taking care of a place in the dead nuts of winter. It's a tent camp, and you can't have permanent structures. You can't have anything that's got a foundation. It's either tents or the trailers on tracks. Uh, but it was just falling apart at the seams. Nobody had taken garbage out of the camp for probably 10 years. Um, they buried things, and it's a problem all over the slope. They didn't used to take care of things properly. Um, but when I got there, I took a four-wheeler and I went out on the runway. The fog was coming in, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what did I just get myself into?" And I started crying because and the garbage was hip to chest deep for miles, both sides of the river. It's 3 miles to where the road goes up near the cliffs, and it was just garbage and old mining parts and barrels everywhere, just waste from the 40s and 50s on. And I got out there, and all of a sudden, I heard something, and I'm seeing something in the fog, and I'm like, "The hell is that?" And I was like, "Whoa!" And here comes this bear. She had ear tags in, and she swooped as she went by, and I'm like, "Holy shit!" And she ran off in the fog, and that caught my attention. And that adrenaline hit is what kept me in Kavik. Because then I went, this is this is a bear infestation. This is a bear problem. This I can handle that. If I can take the bears and get them to move, if I can get the garbage and pick it up. When I came through here all these years ago when I was a teen, not Kavik itself, but that area, it wants to be beautiful. I can be part of the fix, not the problem.
So you felt that connection when you were there. It was almost like a temporary summer job or something, or whatever, winter job, but then you felt
He
that.
he offered a summer position, and I said, "Hell no! You want me? It's year round." So we came to an agreement on that. But when I got there and saw The dining hall tent was not the tent you see now. It was half that size. There were no Arctic entryways. Um, it had a couple of stoves, oil stoves. One didn't work. The bench that you sat on were two barrels that were cut in half with plywood on them. It just wasn't the same as what you see now. And technology wasn't the same. But that interaction with that bear tagged me into, whoa, well, shit. I got to keep people safe. And then, okay, how do you do that? How big is this problem? Shit, there's bear poo all over if I open my eyes. Um, got the dogs 2 dog yards set up because you want 1 dog yard because they're gonna poop, they're gonna pee in the winter. It's a big pee sickle, but you got to move them so you can clean up the debris, the detritus. So you always have 2 dog yards. Um, but it tagged me into the this could be very cool. This could be super positive.
That's awesome. And then that was what, 40, we won't say how long ago that was, but it was a little bit of time ago.
Yeah.
And maybe some partners were around, some weren't at that point. But then you
Yeah,
ended.
the partner that I had at that point was only there a couple of years and out. He left for better pastures, and sometimes it's not a good fit.
And but for you at that point, you knew that that was, would you call it a calling, your connection to Kavik?
It was home. It
Yeah.
was people ask, what's home to you? And there's a place you go there, and if you're lucky, it's a few places. And something all of a sudden the gears shift and drop into place, and you're supposed to be there. I am Kavik. Kavik is me. I took cleaning it up to levels I think a lot of big companies would have a harder time doing. Here I am patting myself on the back. Be careful, I don't hurt my shoulder again. Um, but it didn't matter what it cost me and what I had to work out. Wild Bill in the C-120 and a bunch of his planes, he would bring them up and we did round after round after round to clean it up. The DC-6s coming in every time they were empty, going to town, filling them up, getting the stuff to the dump. A bunch of the waste oil. There were barrels everywhere, and things just weren't done well. Um,
And so you had to load all that trash in, like just.
oh, I did a grid pattern, and I would clean everything up. You got to move things in the summer because in the winter they freeze back in. Found a couple of really cool things that I've kept, over the years and displayed them in Kavik. I used to have a museum up there that I did. Um, but there's a lot of people that talk about saving the wildlife or talk about the balance of nature and talk about um, loving the pristine quality of the North Slope and the Arctic Refuge. But the logistics, the reality of cleaning that up, if it's not a passion, you're not going to be able. Maybe I'm passion motivated, not like baby, I want to go sleep with you passion, but the baby, I want to clean you up passion. Um, I feel deeply for the animals, even though I had a lot of run-ins with the bears. Um, some in my life have been extremely positive, like when I was super young, and others were not so positive when I got attacked. But they're bears. You see the wolves. I think there is a bent. People do not need to wipe out every wolf simply because it's a wolf. You have to have balance. Um, if it's killing all the moose, well, go down to the coffee stand because they're waiting in Anchorage in line for their lattes. 3 vehicles this winter. My truck got totaled by a moose. I was going 25 miles an hour. He wasn't, and it really racked up the truck. My daughter in the Jeep, another friend of mine about 8 miles down, their family, they ended up in the hospital. It was bad. There's a ton of moose. Do you have to do some predator control? Absolutely. If you take out all the predators, you're going to cause diseases.
Well, since you brought up predators and bears, I
Mm.
know we've talked about the attack a lot on the show.
A little
Um, is
bit.
it just
More than I I don't like to think about it vividly.
Well, this might be the
Be,
last time we have to talk about it, so maybe I can just ask you not, you don't have to think about it vividly. And I know
well, I
there's a
think in
lot.
pictures, so depending on what you're asking me, I automatically see a video of it in my head.
Talk a little bit about what happened and then how did you get rescued? That bear, did you have to kill that bear? Yeah, talk a little bit about we talked a little
There,
bit about the attack itself, and maybe talk a little bit about the end of it.
the bears, male bears, you have alpha bears in your predator world. You have alphas and betas. What does that mean? Alpha, like the Greek alphabet, alpha is the top, right? That's your first one, first tier. Next tier is betas, kappas, deltas. Um, but you have the juvenile males, little cubs and juveniles, and up to maybe 5 to 7 years old. By 5, they should have their shit in a square, but they don't always. Um, but their urges to mate are starting to come into play anywhere 4 to 7. Um, but they're beta. Well, the chicks only want to mate. They may get stuck doing something they don't want to do, but they prefer to mate with the alphas. That's their own little trigger for survival of the best of the species. So, what happened? There was, as I say, when I got there, the amount of bears there because of how ill kept it was, garbage everywhere. You can't lay out a buffet and not expect somebody to show up with a tray. So I was cleaning it, but I was messing in what a lot of animals thought of as their personal den site, their personal, they could always trust going to the old Kavik buffet. And but here I come and I'm cleaning it up and I'm taking it away, and they noticed that, and I was bumping their boundaries. Well, here comes, well, okay, so I called the troopers, and because I had one year, and I have a lot of planes. I used to have a lot more planes. When we were filming, it wasn't the best time to film if I had a full camp of people. So they didn't get to see a lot of the planes that I would get. I would have 13 to 17 small planes, a couple of real big planes like the DC-6 would bring me fuel and then spend the night, maybe go fishing a couple of days and then leave. The Caravan would be there. I mean, I had all kinds of planes. I had 7 to 8 helicopters, anything from the military helicopters to 307 or, I mean, all kinds, but I was a hopping place. Well, I would have these small planes coming in during the hunting season. Hunting season is closer to denning season. And there were 3 bears on the end of the runway. And every time they would start charging when the plane would come in, and they would try to grab the tricycle gear. They were coming down there trying to take down that bird they saw coming out of the sky. So I had to call the troopers and get them out there. And I had two wildlife troopers that came out to survey the scene. And they said, "Well, do you mind? We're going to come out on our own time, and um, we'll just get an eye on the ground for what's really happening out here." Said, all right. Yeah, I don't care. Do your hunting for your family and just come on as a weekend. That's all right. And they got there and they said they got their animals and they ended up cutting them up and staking them out on the rooftop of the perch because the bear activity was so intense that there were two caribou on the one sled, on the one trailer. Came in to get a cup of coffee, go back out, and here's Marty running off with one in her mouth while she's swimming the Kavik River. And they're like, "Oh shit!" So they got on the roof, and that's where they felt safe enough to do cutting of the meat. And they said, "Sue, yeah, I'm sorry, you don't have a bear problem." And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I don't. Whatever." And they said, "No, you have a bear infestation. This is ridiculous. You need to maybe not be here during the full denning." And I'm like, "I have to. I got to protect it. This is my place." So, anyways, here comes this juvenile male, beta, and he's got his hormones going, and he's like, "Dang, Betsy's looking nice this year. Look at the booty on that girl. She got some fat stored." And the girls are looking at him like, "Ew, beta much?" You know? So, how does a male bear go from beta to alpha? They've got to kill another alpha. They've got to subjugate them, meaning doing something, and then like a dog that has its jaws on another dog's throat, and they pin them down. And the other dog's like, "Yo, yo, you win." Jeez, aggro. Um, you put them in their place, so to speak, and let them walk away, do the walk of shame. That makes you an alpha, or you take away their feeding area. And the bears saw my area as, I have dens you never have to dig, and it always smells like food. No matter how well I keep it clean, they can smell from 10 miles away. So when the wind is right, it smells like a smorgasbord. So this bear was coming. He started by taking a caribou kill and burying it on my helicopter pad every night. Every day, I called the state and the troopers, and I thought, "What do you want me to do about this?" And can I kill to save my life? Yes. But I try to save it for when I need to. But I need to tell them we have a rogue bear here, because then if there's something wrong with it, if he's loopier than shit, if he's got a disease, I don't have to take that off of my quota. I can get bear meat some other way. Anyways, I told them about what was happening, and they said, "Dig it back up, either throw it down the river where they gave me an area that I can put any bones, and it goes down the river and it's not in camp, or burn it." All right. So the first time I did that and I brought it down off the end and tossed it over, oh boy, that bear was upset, because that's a challenge. He's like, "Take that. I'm taking your land. Boom. It's mine." When they bury something, they're telling you, "This is mine now. I'm taking it from you. Sorry about your luck. Cry, but move on. This is your opportunity to leave without a scratch." And I just picked it up, sent it down, and I said, "No, you know what? Why don't you swim for your dinner, boo boo?" Because I'm saying, no, no dice. And so we were going to have a head to head. And that's how it culminated. Um, Without keeping it going for another 2 hours, we went back and forth with that quite a bit. Things were freezing up. Uh, I wanted to get one more pumping of water so that I could have, I sooner or later I got to drain all my systems, but I try to get enough water set up that I can take apart all my other external water lines, and I still have water for part of the winter. Brought my pump down. You've seen me do it on the show. I have a little gas powered pump. I take it. If it's the summer and the water's flowing, great. I can put it right on the edge of the pad there, that little road, or I can get a little further out on a gravel section. And then I have to put my line together, and it goes and pumps all the way up. Looked around for this bear, and the bear at that point probably had 6, 7 different run-ins, and I knew it was going to come to a head. So I was looking around, didn't see him. I had to get out on the ice and bust a hole through, and so I set my gun down. I have to pick up that pump with both hands, and where the bank got eaten away, when I'm looking, I can't see through this section that's where he was hiding. And so he charged out, grabbed me, I had the big heavy duty Carhartts on, drug me up into the tundra. they extend their claws. I call it an alpha push. I don't know what anybody else calls it. I don't know that there's too many people that go through it and want to talk about it, but they extend their claws and they're moving you and pushing you and twisting you. And the goal is if you put back pressure on it, that's like me going, yeah, really? I'll take you on. And you're poking them. So you have about 1 second to 3 seconds to figure out what did you do in bear language to incur this, because you did bring it on yourself. That bear told me, I want you to move. I want your land. And I went, no. Once he was doing this and not a female bear or a true alpha or a psycho bear would have just killed me outright. But it's a juvenile. And he's trying to, the girlies are around and he's doing a show for him. He put his jaws on my throat. I can still feel here and here. You can feel where the teeth went into the head. Um, which all these years later, this last year, when I had my neck surgery, this all blew up. The bear area blew up, and it turns out I had an infection where the crack is in the skull, the fracture. It was infected underneath, and I ended up with a big MRSA thing and a bunch of cysts that needed to be removed and a growth. But the bear bluff charged a bunch more. I couldn't see well. There was a lot of blood. He tore up the shoulder pretty good. He went over the bank and he didn't come back up. Finally, so I knew I needed to get to the dining hall. You got to take care of the bear things really quickly. They have an enzyme in their saliva that is not good. So you got to scrub it out. I was going to try to call for help. I did not remember I had a gun down by the riverbed down that embankment. My hips were out of the sockets. The one was probably not all the way, but I got myself back into the dining hall, got myself cleaned up, sewed the head, sewed part of the arm, um, tried calling for help. I got on the radio and I went, this is Kavik. This is Kavik. And anybody, I need to get some help. I've had a run in with a bear. And here comes one of the oil fields. And they said, this is a secured channel. And it's 122.9, you fuck. And which is open. And they still have never talked to me again. And I went, damn it, I got to quit swearing. And the phone systems then were a little bit different. You had an analog system, not what we have now, where there was no Wi-Fi calling. That didn't exist. There was no super duper internet. I called the troopers, got their answering machine, left them a message. That trooper later in the spring, the following spring, he said, I am so sorry. I just heard everything that happened. You were so calm when you left your message that we just assumed that the bear came through and ransacked the camp, that not that this happened to you. But anyways, I got the hips put back in the sockets, put gun belts around them to try and hold it there. Got another jacket, got another rifle, and my GPS. Why did I do that? I will never to this day know why I GPSed it, but you have a lot of forms to fill out when you do a DLP, Defensive Life and Property. But I knew if I did not, I knew I wasn't going to be walking much longer. I knew I was going to be hurting. I left messages for people, and then I went out. When I was taking the caribou that he would bury on my helicopter pad and burning them or throwing them away, he would always blow up the brush in a certain area, being all angry. So I knew that's his targeted area. Got out that way, found him, shot him, GPS the area. And then the hips gave out and I had to drag myself back in the dining hall. And I threw a bunch of waters down on the floor and some chips. I knew I wouldn't be moving soon, and I didn't. I laid there 10 days. I could hear the planes going over. That time of year, we get a lot of ice fog. And I remember hearing one of the pilots going, Sue, Sue, are you down there? Oh, shit, I see you got the equipment out. You must be working. All right. Because I had been before I went to go and originally do my thing of getting the water. Um, I needed to fuel as well. So I had the Bobcat over there by the fuel shed. Um, Days go by and I can hear the plane going over different planes, but they're like, dang, Sue, all right, you must be busy. It's foggy as hell. I hope you're okay. Um, Catch you on the next run. And then on the 10th day, the one pilot went over and he noticed that the fuel shed doors were just flopping in the wind. Um, my fuel pump the pump for getting the water, um, was way down the river, and he knew something was wrong. And so he flew in and stopped, and that's how I got out of there. But thanks for asking that, Joe.
Well, Sue, I didn't know it would go into. I didn't want to interrupt you on that story. I mean, maybe there's some closure in there. Like we've been talking
No,
about this.
there's never going to be a lot of closure. The closure I get is that for some unknown reason, I'm still here. Um, and I was in the middle. I was purchasing the camp from Mike at Tyaga, uh, but I hadn't completed it yet. And so I was his employee. And for 10 years, I worked and donated a great portion of my paycheck to buying it. And on the show, you see me make that last payment. And then it was mine. So it was a workman's comp case. So it's sitting there. So for all the people who don't, who go, oh shit, that's a load of crap, sure, you're right. But it's documented. Uh, it took me a while to get over that. And when I got to Fairbanks, when the pilot got me to Fairbanks, um, they did the scans and they're like, you got to go, you got to go down to Portland or Seattle. Where do you want to go? We can't help you here. Um, Funny thing, when on the show, when I buggered up my shoulder and I had to go have some work done at the hospital in Fairbanks, when I got there, the lady goes, wait a minute, aren't you the one? And she was my nurse when the bear thing happened. What are those chances?
That's wild. I
It
think.
is.
Do, do you
my,
think? Do
my
you?
closure is in accepting I had a big part to play in that. Um, the bear was doing what bears do. The bear wasn't, he might have been a little psycho. He was just juvenile. And my actions translated into bear language are bring it, bring it. I'm not going anywhere. Fuck you and bring it. So he did. When you and that's where somebody carved me this bear statue, and on one side it says welcome to Kavik on the sign, but you flip it over and it says poke the bear. And you poke the bear, if you lay out the welcome mat, somebody's going to walk through. And I made it through that. um I did not expect I like this blowing up into MRSA and all that. Did not expect all of that to go down so many years later, but it did. But it gave me a chance to really review. Wow, to do the lifestyle that I love to do the most, it could come with your final price tag. Are you willing to pay that? Do you want a lifestyle where it may very well, how many of these do you want to lose and still be there? If bear takes your leg, you still want to work? Um, And the answer for me has been yes, yes. I love the challenge. I love the animals. I would much rather duke it out with the bears. It's very difficult for me, even at the Chena cabin. I don't see many people out here, but it's still a different environment. And I am in an area where there are potentially more people. I don't understand human nature. I would rather face an animal that's trying to attack me because I know exactly what it wants. I don't have to worry about, oh, did you have a tough childhood and that's why you're being a little silly? It's no, it's very clear. The lines and boundaries are black and white. That's easy for me to deal with, even if there's a big finality with it. But the subtlety of you can have a whole street full of people walking at you, and I cannot pick out the Jeffrey Dahmer, and that's frightening to me.
Your
But
people
boy, life
are
below zero.
it's funny because everyone's like, "Oh, we want to tune in to Sue to feel better." And I'm like, "Ooh, that's intense." So
Yeah,
let's shift it a little bit. And we don't have a whole lot of time, but only because um there's a big thing happening on TV tonight. Is it the address to Congress? No, it is the series finale of Life Below Zero. I believe actually, some people who are in the East Coast, I believe it should be airing now. And then there's a couple hour, I think then like another hour and then another hour before it gets to the West Coast, and then another hour before Alaska. But the show is winding down, as we talked about in our first one and in the other Zooms for now. Um, do you have any overall thoughts about the show? And I think maybe let's talk a little bit about the connections that you've made to people. That's really what I get the most in traveling with you and doing these Zooms and chats is that people just feel so strongly connected to you that you are inspiration to them. Um, yeah, let's talk a little about that connection that you have to these fans, some of them who you've never met.
yeah. Well, might be a lesser known fact about me. To do any show, you have a contract. You don't have a solid contract unless there's some form of exchange, money. We do get paid to be on the show. There is no set amount that everybody gets. We negotiate our own contracts. Uh, Part of who I am, I take a good chunk of any of the money that I make, and I try to go forward and bless people with it. And what do I really mean? Kids with cancer, terminal illnesses have a big place in my heart. I have two grandchildren that passed away. I also Nathan, that was on the show a couple of times. He had cancer, almost lost him, uh, but he's now what 6'6" and size 16 feet, 24 years old. But I find these kids or situations and I help them with their medicine. If they make it, I befriend them. Make a Wish Foundation, Catch a Dream Foundation, other foundations. I'll bring the kids up if that's their wish to come up. It's on me. Get up here. If I go broke doing it, I know how to get a M, F, and job. I will make more money. But that's a passion for me. I've reached out, other vets, people have served in the military. Woman went overseas, served, uh, got extremely injured, burnt, missing a couple of limbs. And she was a fan. When she got home, she did not look the same because of her injuries. Her spouse left her and she was losing her home. And so I moved, shifted some pegs, made some arrangements, got donations, and with my own money, we paid off her house and made sure she didn't lose it. Um, I like people. I really enjoy if People are so surprised. They meet me and they're like, "Oh my God, I thought you hated people. You're so personable." I'm like, "I never said I hated people. I don't want to live with all you motherfuckers, but I don't hate you. I just can't sustain a long-term side by side." Yeah, back up a little. Um, Kids, I would say kids are probably my largest fan base. I have so much artwork everywhere. I got to keep getting more places and building more places because I keep it all and I put it up. Um, any young man for a lot of years now, over a decade, 15 years, if they achieved Eagle Scout and got a hold of me, I gave them a free trip. Uh, what do you want to do? We need to reinforce positively some of these things. There are no more rites of passage for kids where you achieve these things. The young men going out there and getting Eagle Scout, that is a hell of a challenge. They're not out getting girls pregnant and doing drugs. They're bettering themselves as humans. So let's get you out here and we'll hike and we'll do things. And I love watching them um, as they grow. Uh, Joan, who was on an episode, she's in Maine, and she wrote me like one of the first years, and she wanted to come out. She had saved her money, gave her a price. She got up there. She got up there kind of late in the season, late in the fall, and the caribou were like leaving en masse. And but I took her. We did things, and we became friends. And through that visit, she shared with me that um, a lot of the factories were downsizing. Her mom and dad had passed away. She was in charge of her brother. With her other family members, a brother who was very much autistic and on the scales. Um, but she lost her job, the downsizing of corporate America, and she lost her job. And so but she was so grateful to have come out. And I was like, "You lost your job and you still use your funds to come out here? What are you going to do for work?" There are a lot of jobs. She goes, "No, I have no idea, but this was so important to me. I saw you on the show. I connected with you, and it was like you were talking to me." And it was, I have this tiny life and I have these other things, and all of a sudden here's a female that's not super young, not super old. I got there eventually, but you're larger than life. You're like Sue Wayne. And I went, "Okay, we got to talk. I'm not going to take your money for staying here. That's just wrong." I said, "But I'll take your expertise. You know how to work with your hands. You want to visit." And so I made her help me fix things around camp. And she came back for a couple of different summers here and there to enjoy it. I have another young man here in town, and he's autistic. And he sparked in something in me. He doesn't like to be touched. He's very texture oriented. But he saw me and he was like, you know, and I would go to his the Paralympics and stuff. I would go there and cheer him on, and did some things with the show for him. Um, Totally lost track of what you even originally asked me.
We were talking about the impact that you've had on people, and I think you're giving some great specifics. I
Yeah,
don't we don't need to go.
it's
I
not
think
just that I have an impact on them. It is a bonding shared experience. Maybe that's the difference. I I'm really interested. Meeting you, and then you and your wife getting married, and then having children. You're not just Joe, producer on the show. You're my friend and family. And I don't let anybody else talk. I'm just filling you with all the wonderfulness that I feel about us. And hopefully that comes through when we're filming. Because I'm so stinking excited that I might be able to make my own shower out of a garbage can that ends up being, a smoker that I'm doing ptarmigan in or something. I mean, it doesn't even, it's how I talk, but it's how I live. "Oh, I'm going to make this shower." And suddenly I have a smoker and a caribou hanging in it. It's like, how did you get there? I don't know.
That's amazing. I know you can't see the comments and I can read them, but people are saying like that you've literally changed their life. People are saying that that you've been such an inspiration. Make sure you go back and read these comments uh
I do.
after our Zoom. You know,
And I'm going to say it's really important, if you guys haven't already done it, to subscribe to this channel. And then mine's not ready yet. It's just not ready yet. But we're going to be doing more things.
I think so. So on this YouTube channel, I don't know enough how to subscribe. I think because I'm watching some.
There's a big button that says subscribe.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
I think subscribe and like, and there'll be some more stuff coming out in the future. Hopefully, at a minimum, these lives are great, and I think people are really responding to them and really enjoying them. The Life Below Zero is over. I do want to say that port protection is has also not been renewed. However, there are more episodes starting tonight. I encourage people
That is so cool.
to watch that. That said, eventually there will definitely be a gap in Life Below Zero being on the air, and I hope it's a small gap. I don't know, but your life continues to go, Sue, and people are really wanting to see more. So maybe there's more stuff
Well,
that we can put out.
today somebody sent me a message, and people send me messages all the time, and I try to read them all. I can't, honestly, I cannot read all of them, but I do try. Um, Somebody sent me a message and said, "Is it true? Is the show really over? Well, I guess you're going to have a super quiet year now." And I sat there and I was like, uh, actually, it's going to probably be busier in a lot of ways. I mean, when we're filming, there's not as much going on in camp because, we're focusing. Um, but no, it's like my life. I mean, my life isn't stopping. It's still going. Poof. And I have big plans that I'm not going to discuss yet, but it'll be probably the next thing I put forward. Um, but yeah, it's the show. I can't think of it any other way than it's currently morphing. It is reorganizing, and that's my hope. Is this the end of it altogether? I just don't know. It's just too strange that the networks haven't come out and announced, yes, we're done. Um, but I know there's some restructuring. But if it is done, life is still going on, and I still am really excited to share things with people because it was my heart, my life. You watched me build crosses for my sister and my granddaughter, and I shared it with you guys, not flesh and blood family, you guys. So yeah, please follow. And tonight's episode, which I've talked about a lot of things. For me, it's kind of poignant. It's the garden episode. I had so many plans to do different garden things, and the weather was just it was a big factor. And I'm always changing things up. I'm trying to make it different. I'm trying to make it better. I'm trying to, and I've got to work on timelines. But I get a whole bunch of stuff for a good price, and I flew it out. And you go from having 5 feet of snow and ice covering the big garden to it warmed up, and bam, I was able to use it. Uh, you also have one of my favorite things in the whole world, aviation. You have the big warbirds coming in, bringing me fuel, and they come right overhead and go. There's nothing more thrilling than that. It encapsulates a lot of what Kavik is, what Kavik has been with all of us. Uh, you met us, and I was pretty cantankerous. I think I've mellowed out a lot, maybe. Uh, allowed myself to be a little more polished. Um, but it's growth, it's change. When you first got to Kavik, I had taken most of the power lines and put them up in the air on the poles, but there were still the old adage for the pipeline camps. They were all temporary. That's how they saw them. And so they didn't put cables in the ground. They didn't, they just laid power cords on the floor. If you didn't have enough power, obviously you just need a bigger generator and more power cords, not being more efficient. And so it took a lot for me that the episode where I put in the underground cable and the electrical, that was a hell of a feat. And again, everybody here did it with me. It's so this last episode, how fitting that in the show's current configuration, the last episode is about working an unworkable area and seeing growth and the fuel and the birds and that radial rumble that is the North Slope distribution. Aviation is the cornerstone of this state. So how fitting. First episode, you see me brushing my teeth in a seedy hotel room, spitting it out and flying out to Kavik. This time you're seeing the growth in an impossible situation and me being a 3-year old going, oh shit, he's gonna hit me. Um, but thank you guys. Thank you for sharing it with me and stick close. I'm gonna be around.
I think in some form or fashion there'll be people will still be able to follow you. You have such a great fan base and interactive and people who really, love the show and love you and love all the characters, of course. But let's be honest, I think you kind of stand out over the years. For many years you were literally the face of the show. Like your face was plastered on the walls and this is a show that has a lot of support, of course, has a lot of their characters, but this is a show that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into, and I think a lot of us are very fortunate that we hit TV gold and human gold with with you. So
Well, and you
um,
guys let me be childlike. You gave me the freedom to be who I really am. And with that much respect coming my way, then it blossoms.
I
So
think it's
thank you.
going to continue to blossom. And I hate to wrap this up. I know you do your own lives occasionally, so you can do
Yeah.
that. But I think on this channel, particularly if people subscribe, we'll start to do more things and show more stuff. But I know there's a lot going on out there, and I want people to watch the show. I know they're recording it. So no matter what, I will be reviewing these comments and questions. I want to, circle back and see, and if anybody has any feedback in terms of what they want to see more of, maybe
Yeah.
we could do something where it's like two cast members talking, or
Well,
you
and
know,
and and let me know. You can find me on the socials, and send a message and say, you know what, I really was hoping to see. I never saw how you do this. You're down here. Are you going to build one of those log cabin meat caches? Um, Let me know what you want to see because we don't have a network we're pleasing or not pleasing. I don't have a network that we're pleasing or not pleasing right now. Hopefully that's resolved. But if you want to see me make a birch basket or you want me to do something where, let me know.
you know what I want to see, Sue? I think people don't know this or kind of don't see this is what an incredible artist you are. My favorite art I have in my office is painted
Floyd.
by Sue, which you might have seen in an episode. I don't know, so maybe you can do some like Bob Ross style paintings of
Yeah.
Alaska or
Well, and there are certain art things that I did do, and if people are interested, it's like my map of Kavik, my resource map that I painted of Kavik for an episode. I want to do posters of that. The Tarmy tent, I still have that, and that's down here. And I've got to do some. I want to do some creative fixes on it and bring it back up. Um, but no, I enjoy art. I enjoy creativity. If you want Sue to shine, allow me to be creative. If I say I want to make a coffee roaster out of an old thing I found in the woods, don't tell me no. Sit back and watch because it's probably going to morph into an Archimedes screw to bring water to the masses. I mean, that's where I have enjoyed being a part of. I hate calling it a show. I've been a part of this life below zero because my creativity was embraced. And so it just continued to grow.
That's amazing. And really I like the idea of not calling it a show. I mean, obviously it is a show, but it's been a family. So I want to thank you and I want to thank everyone again.
Yeah.
As they say, like and subscribe or whatever, but we'll be posting more soon. And then once it all settles in, maybe in the next couple weeks, we'll do another live. And I know you do your own stuff, your own
Yeah.
live, and we can maybe do some additional content, but we'll see how that all goes. So I want to thank everyone for watching, and
And,
please
and
watch.
I wanted to also, it is the talent, and I appreciate that you brought the talent on to talk. Um, what I would like to see is maybe bring some of the crew and do some of the same things. What was it like filming here? What were the challenges there? What does it take? You know, were they allowed to be? Did whatever we were doing affect them and how? Um, I know one person discovered that they never want to be on a hunting show ever again. They thought they could handle it, and they discovered that they said, but they have big brown eyes. And he went and got into a whole different field, part of the field of his field
I
of
think
his
that's a great
tribe.
idea. Maybe we can do some where you interview people or the crew. But
Yeah.
yes, so please everyone subscribe for more. But then also on Nat Geo tonight is the finale. We hope you enjoy it. It's bittersweet, and we hope again that it's the finale for now. So thank you, Sue, very much for doing this, and thank you
It's the
all.
Fornelli.
And for finale, I knew you'd have something something so clever. Even in my own life, I always add like Sueisms, we
Yeah,
call them.
I
But
like adding, in case nobody noticed, I like adding my name into everything. I like myself.
the-
Over my life, it started out so rough and rocky, but you know what? It took everything I went through to create who I am, and I'm a lot of damn fun to hang with. But it's like on my door, I wrote "Mi Casa Sue Casa" because it is "Mi Casa Su Casa." It's a saying, but it's literally the Su Casa. I love putting my name into things, and it makes me giggle, and it's like being a little clever, not quite naughty child, but
all right, well, I guess we'll end by saying we'll sue you soon. See you soon.
soon. Yeah.
Soon. See you soon. Yes. Bye everyone. Bye
All right.
Sue.
Goodbye. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been years of amazingness. Thank you.